Hey guys, welcome to Her Side Radio. It's your girl T.
It's your girl C in the cut, and we have
Producer Cray.
What's up, y'all?
So we just like to thank y'all for tuning in again. And if you haven't already, follow us across all social media, your Instas, your Twitters, and you can always send us an email at hersideradio@gmail.com.
You already know.
How is everyone doing?
Wakanda forever!
Forever! So if y'all haven't watched Black Panther yet, I just, recommend you just, hit pause on the podcast, come back when you have some sense or some movie ticket money, because what we are not doing today is holding back on our discussions regarding Wakanda, regarding Black Panther, and regarding Black History Month as a whole. So we're just going to get right into it talking about Black Panther, but also on a whole, our experience as African kids, because believe it or not, we are first generation African kids, and our experiences in this place that is not Wakanda, unfortunately.
It's Canada.
And it snows really badly, and there's no hot men who bark like dogs.
Pardon?
Yeah,
What?
Honestly, this is so random, but all I could think about in Wakanda is, the men were beautiful, and, I don't see that in Toronto.
Oh, you mean the part where they were... Okay, yeah. I get that. Okay. I'm like, what? Barking like that? I'm like, what
yeah, when they were, repping
yeah, when they were coming down the
tribes,
hill or whatever, and
yeah,
they were barking.
Whatever. Okay, he sounded like a Q dog. You guys know, the American, fraternities?
Okay, yeah, pause.
Yeah. Anyways, he sounded like a Q dog, so I was like, yes. But, let me stop showing my face. So let's jump.
Couldn't handle all that chocolate.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. What were our perceptions or receptions of Black Panther? They say, if you had to rate it, what would you rate it?
So on Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually got a 97%, which is kind of crazy for that site. Because, what kind of review do you see at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes? It has to be that good, you know what I'm saying?
So, I hate to be a hater, but I wonder if it got such a good review because people are scared to offend Black people in 2018 because, Donald Trump is, doing all the offending. So, good white people are on eggshells. Because I love the movie. I'm not trying to sit here and be disrespectful, but I'm wondering if people would be more critical if we weren't in such a politically correct time.
Just to mention, people were trying to, ruin the movie. If you, people were doing campaigns where, they were, I know the alt-right groups, they were trying to, they were trying to get on the Rotten Tomatoes site and, give the movie a bad review, and then there was all over Twitter, there was these, people posting up, fake, accidents that they said that they were, beat up by Black people going to see Black Panther, saying, this movie's not for you. You guys didn't hear about that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy stuff because of this movie. There's been a lot of, I would say scrolling through comments, Africans versus Black Africans or African Americans, or just people are now trying to hop on the trend of, wearing a dashiki, and dashikis are now a trend, and, people are now hopping on this African culture business. There's just so much.
And it's so interesting because literally we see this a lot in entertainment where something that's purely based in entertainment becomes this political statement and this larger discussion. But if we boil it back, no, you can fight me. You can find me and fight me on this. Black Panther is a good movie, hands down. I have yet to meet someone who said that it wasn't a good movie. Now, would I sit here and say it's the best movie I ever watched? No. But I would say it's an amazing movie.
I'm going to say it's probably the best movie I would watch this year. Well, the year's still pretty fresh, but I think it will be.
Yeah.
Just for me, being a comic book fan and specifically a DC fan, I hate on all Marvel movies, but I credit this movie because Marvel had a huge villain problem with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. There was always a huge villain problem with it, and with Killmonger, they kind of made me feel for him. He had valid points. Him and T'Challa both had valid points.
As to why they feel the way they feel and why they did the things they did.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't know. I don't know anything about comic books, but comic books aren't my thing. But the one thing that I liked about this is, the characters had depth. And I think that's the thing that you usually miss with villains, because it would have been really easy. And again, spoiler alert, if you're listening to this, spoiler alert. It would have been really easy for them to like make Claus, is that like, that's how you say his name? It would have been really easy to make him the villain because he's such an easy villain. Ha ha ha, look at me, I have tools. But when you make Michael B. Jordan's character the villain, what you see is this depth of someone who's like is trying to find themselves and then find their culture and then merge their hatred and their love for this place at the same time. Like, especially that scene with his dad. Like, Sterling K. Brown deserves all the awards. I'm starting to watch This Is Us. And literally I'm crying and I see him on stage. Every episode I cry. Every time Sterling K. Brown, his name is mentioned now, I cry. CP24 said he won an award. I'm crying over my breakfast. Like,
her pancakes are soggy.
My pancakes are soggy. Forget the syrup. But I think, like you said, Cray, what the movie does and why I say it's such a good movie is they literally give you character depth. My only issue is, and thinking about it out loud, is that you don't get the same character depth with the female leads because it's such a male focused. There wasn't enough time. Like, it's not like this is a bad movie because of that. But it would have been really interesting to like dig into like Lupita's role more and like what does it mean to give up your dream to be queen for love. And maybe they'll explore it more in like part 2 and 3 because we all know there's more parts coming.
Of course. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a part 2? I mean, in this case, you know, when you see like a movie and there's a part 2, you're like, yeah, but this, I'd actually want to watch.
I'm more excited to see Shuri's character, like, based on she's one of the genius of the Marvel, universe.
Yeah, she's hella smart.
And through the comics, she actually becomes the Black Panther. So I'm interested to see.
She becomes a Black Panther?
Yeah, she has, like, everyone who has, a right to challenge a king, like, especially if you're a family, it doesn't matter if you're female or male, you have the right to challenge a king. And she is qualified, like, more so than anyone else. And she does eventually become Black Panther later on in the comics. So I'm kind of interested to see where her character goes on in the future movies.
And so, like, I didn't know that. Like, obviously, I'm gonna be honest, I watched the movie because it was, like, a cute thing to do. So I honestly don't know much about, like, the comic book part of it. It's like the same reason why I watch like, what do you call it, Captain America, is because like, oh, it's fun. But it is one of those movies that I was like, wow, got me thinking about like my Africanness versus like my blackness, because it's like,
what does that mean?
So like, I think about it in the sense like I'm first generation African, right? So like my parents came here from Africa, so I have an African culture to attach myself to, but oftentimes in like Canadian context, it's just wrapped up as black.
You're black.
I'm just black. Whereas it's so different because each black person, depending on where their family came from and their experiences, has a different reality of being black. So I remember growing up, for example, and people would call me an Oreo because I wasn't black enough, right? Because I acted white, quote unquote.
You're whitewashed, quote unquote.
And then on top of that, though, people would also like assume that I knew things. So I remember getting into high school and people would like speak patois to me and assume that I knew patois. And I'm like, I'm African, like I'm Ghanaian, like I don't. What are you talking about?
Yo, my girl.
You know what's funny? It's not just assumptions from like white people, Asian people. It's assumptions
even
from
black
like, other
people
black
themselves.
Yeah. So.
Like getting typical. So what's your background? And then you would answer like, okay, I'm African, I'm Ghanaian per se. You're for real? You're African?
Or
I thought you were Jamaican the whole time, you know.
And this assumption that like blackness is monolithic, and I think what Black Panther did, and it kind of ties into the conversation around like black history, but rather like making black history instead of sitting in black history, is like black people aren't a monolithic, which means like we all don't have one identity. And so we have shared experiences, like we have a shared trauma experience of like being like going through slavery, being colonized and all those things. But as individuals, our black experiences are so different. Like, and you see it in Toronto, right? Like, you can go to some parts of Toronto and it's like, yo, this is Jamaica. And you go to other parts, you're like, yo, this is Ghana. Or you go to, like, little, even smaller pockets, you're like, yo, this is Ethiopia. Like, the East, like, the different vibes and what it means to be black is so interesting.
The West End of Toronto, definitely.
Yeah, and you see it in Toronto so much. And when I tie it into Black Panther, you see all this different blackness, right? Because T'Challa's blackness was so different from Michael B. Jordan's character's blackness, right? Like the militant versus like the unity for one nation, and then like you pull in like the feminist perspective of like I need to like help the world, and I was like, this movie is really good, and it got me thinking. I was like, yo, this is good. Like I don't know, I just really enjoyed it.
It's more than just a movie.
You know what's interesting? The whole Okoye versus Okavi, like the head of the security, the Okoye. She's the one who is with T'Challa in the beginning of the movie while they're going to get Lupita's character.
Yeah.
Versus
okay,
Daniel,
so that was the main warrior you're talking about.
Yeah, the main
like their love story.
The fact that where she's like, yeah, I will kill you over to protect this nation. Like she's not with it. She's Wakanda forever. Like it doesn't matter if you disagree with me. It's about the nation. Like even though. Like, that was interesting.
That's like, loyalty.
I was like, where's that gonna go in this, the second movie? Because, like, he basically blames...
He blames T'Challa for his parents.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys were both kids. Like, he had nothing to say. And the funniest thing I heard is, I don't know, my friend said this, so I won't give them credit, because I feel like they got off Instagram, and they're like, it sucks that, like, Daniel's still in the sun, because the actor's name is Daniel.
It's like
Daniel's still in the sunken place. Like, he left Get Out, and he's still in the sunken place, because it's like...
But it's not a continuation of that movie, but...
Because, like, it's like losing focus of what's more important. Like, we're sorry your parents, like, passed on, but, like, you can't take down the whole country because of your trauma. So, yeah.
Did he really lose focus? Because he just agreed with Killmonger, where he he said that to T'Challa at the beginning of the movie, too. Like, if you want us to go and help these oppressed people, tell me what to do. I'm gonna go do it. He kind of just agreed with Killmonger, so I don't really believe he was something.
I think he's like a follower without a cause. Like, I think it's great to like follow your leader, but like have your own thought process. So like
you just going with whatever
the cause is. And I just want to say, for those of you who are listening to a podcast thinking this is a movie review, no, we're gonna switch topics. And if you hear noises in the background, well, like that's life. So like I hope you enjoy the like character traits of like us using things. So yeah. Like, just roll with the technical difficulties is what I'm saying. Woo! Like, I wish I had a Men in Black thing just to erase people's memories, but whatever.
So, moving away from the movie into real life situations.
Real life sucks. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, real life sucks.
So, actually, well, okay, so, not moving away, but stepping a little bit away from the movie, do you think this movie represented Africa well? Like, do you think it put us on the map? Well, I mean, what's the world without Africa? I mean,
so I think what people need to be really careful of is like Wakanda is not Africa. Like, I think there's
not
this
real
idea that like Africa is this utopia, and if we all just like were able to go, let me pause.
Don't ask me if I'm from Wakanda. Don't
ask me if I'm from Wakanda, but also there's also this idea that somehow if we were all able to return home, that things would be better. And it's like Wakanda was able to stabilize and be this magical place because colonization never touched it.
Sure.
I could go home, and like I actually could go home. Like, I'm lucky that I know where my family is from. I could go home tomorrow. I'm still going to have to deal with stuff because colonization existed in my country of origin. So like, I need people to understand, like, Wakanda's great. Wakanda's also a fairy tale. So the same way Princess and the Frog was great, it's a fairy tale. And not saying that, like, Black unity isn't, like, a reality, and, like, Black
U.N.I.T.Y.
U.N.I.T.Y. It's a reality within, like, a limited space. I don't know, because I hate because people are now like, oh, yeah, if we all just linked up and, like, did what the Wakandans did, we would be great. Wakandans never had to deal with Trump. Let's put it that way.
There's so much more that we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. You know what I like? I love that Ryan Coogler actually did his research, because he did spend time in South Africa. He did spend time in Kenya. And he drawed from a lot of, like, African cultures. Like,
which was really, really cool.
Yeah, and I will say the African part of the film felt really authentic, right? Like, the fact that they're using, like, authentic African languages, and none of it felt like very utopian or just very, because usually what you see with Africa is like you see this very like utopian idea, like everything's perfect, or you see flies on like little kids' faces.
And then like they're like smacking them away and
yeah,
help sponsor this child for only 99 cents a day.
And what this movie really showed is that like even in this like utopian place, there's a reality. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but like,
or going like,
the movie for me, what I really love about it is like it just showed it's a comic book, yes, I get it, but it showed complexity in ways that you don't usually get in movies. And I think that's why people like comic books, right? Because they're entertaining, but they make you think about things in different ways.
Outside of the box, pretty much.
It basically is bringing up conversations that we weren't having before about Africa.
That other people weren't having before, because we can say, as first generation Africans, you're having this discussion all the time, right? Like when your mom says, "Do you know how far I traveled to get to school? Do you know that I had to walk?" And the fact that like unity and this is no shade to anyone, but I would say like in African communities, like being a part of a community, whether or not you like the people in your community, is important. So like, for example, all of us are sitting here and we all live in the same building, and all of our moms have like done things for each other. And it's because that's what community does.
Do you have tomatoes?
Yeah. And like, no, but like literally, you know how like white people would make the joke, like not make the joke, but there's like this like perception that you can ask your neighbor for a cup of sugar.
They can't do that. Well, maybe they can, but I feel like
actually do that. Like when someone finds out you're like of the same background, it's like, where's your mom? Where's your mom from? What church do you go to?
And then it's like they have some type of connection somehow, even if they aren't from the same place. Just
and
you know,
and you see that a lot. Like
all of a sudden they're your cousin. Hey, cousin.
Yeah, and the fact that everyone's your cousin. So if we like switch gears now and look at like what does it mean to be African right now, I feel like the one thing I'm grateful for is my parents like teaching me my African identity is like I've never not had family. So like my mom's siblings aren't here, for example, in abundance, but yet I have like 22 cousins because that's what we do.
22? And counting. I don't know.
And counting. Have like the Duggars, like 19 and counting kids. Like it's like 22 and counting cousins.
I don't even, oh gosh, I can't even count. I don't have enough fingers and toes.
And even like in everything we do, culture is so important. Not to say it's not for other cultures, but culture in the sense of like the community sticks together. It's like all Ghanaians like try to connect to a Ghanaian church. And it's like the best example is like, so I was raised Catholic and there's a Catholic church down the street. But my aunt will still be like, oh, you need to come and take the bus 45 minutes to when we have the Ghanaian mass. And
amen. Like, you have to have it the Ghanaian way. There is no other way.
It's the same thing. But
no, you have to have this sermon with shito. You have with pepper, with spice. You didn't know?
You're wilding.
But I think that's like a culture piece, right? And I think what Black Panther will hopefully do is get people to explore those cultures a lot more.
You know what I'm seeing? That Black Panther is like making everyone pro-African. Like
I'm woke.
Like go back to sleep.
But there's a especially with Americans, there's a disconnect with like where they're from, because everyone's like through slavery, they lost their culture. No one knows where they're from, so they're defined as Black Americans.
I'm from Texas. I don't know about Africa. I ain't African. I'm from Texas. Like stuff like that. Like, come on.
But like it's also the reality of like that's the truth for them. Like if you can't trace your background because you were stolen from somewhere, like I'm not gonna fault you for that.
Stolen from Africa.
And it's also the fact that like Black Canadians don't have that context. Like we don't talk about the fact that there are Black Canadians here who can't trace their genealogy because we don't. This is my like number one issue with like Black history in Canada is that so much is focused on like American history, like
whereas the actual African history,
not even African history, but Canadian Black history. Like, I hate when I, like, go somewhere and there's, like, a poster of Martin Luther King, and it's, like...
Not that you hate it, but it's, like, where is the Canadian representation? Like, you don't hear about a lot of Canadians. It's like, okay, us being being born in Canada or being brought up in Canada, whenever there is Black History Month, you hear about, you know, the mains, you know, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks.
But it's, like, no one talks... So, like, I'm not going to sit here in front. Obviously, I don't know a lot, but it's like we talk about Rosa Parks, but we don't talk about, what's her name? I'm making up a name now, but Marie something. Like there was like a runaway slave that's like huge in Canadian history, and I'm pulling it up on my computer now. But the same way Rosa Parks sat in the back, like
she also did the same thing.
There was a Canadian woman who sat in the theater, and like that's a big part. And like the fact that I can't recall the name, but I went through the Canadian school system shows you how lacking it is. And it's another example of how like Canada gets eclipsed by the States. And
too much.
And then what happens is that something like Black history that's already minimized is minimized further because we're focused on that end. And luckily, I keep saying this, because I come from an African household, I have the means to now like go talk to my parents about like U.N.I.T.Y and like Kwame Nkrumah. Those are names that we know, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not of Ghanaian heritage, you don't have that. Like Nigerians will talk about Fola. Am I saying that name right? Or like South Africans.
I don't know.
Or South Africans might talk about like Nelson Mandela.
And then other and
like different African nations will have things to call on. And like Jamaicans will have their histories, and Haitians will have their histories. But if you don't have a history to go back to,
then you don't know where you're coming from.
And more importantly, like, and someone said this to me the other day, like, it's not just about our history, it's about our future. Like, we need to focus on that too. Yeah.
I personally am very grateful that I was brought up in an African home. I love the Ghanaian culture. I love the Ashanti culture. It's just so rich. It's beautiful. I mean, growing up, it was hard being, looked at like, oh, you're African booty scratcher, or what all Africans do is, that's from a movie, isn't it?
It's a joke from a movie, and it's like, honestly, I think it was before our time. To be completely honest, I think it was before our time.
Or, Africans are this, or Africans are poor, you guys live in huts, or you guys spit on each other to shower. Just so many rude comments. Like, it makes you, well, for me, it made me like, wow, this is what people think of Africa. Like, that's disrespectful. Like, forget the UNICEF commercials you see on TV or whatever else.
And also how that affects children. So, like, I was saying to you guys earlier that, like, because when I was younger, I didn't know much about Black history. Like, I remember telling a teacher, like, I don't have to learn French because Black people don't speak French. But that's how limited I was in my understanding, because I knew my country didn't speak French, so I assumed that like
that all that African was the countries didn't speak French.
And like now as an adult, I know that's like ridiculous. Like hello, half of like African nations were colonized by French.
Oui.
So like oui, like comment ça va? But the other thing I'll say is like you still see that now. So I remember talking to a little boy, and I took him like for work. Like I took him to the museum for work, and there was a Ghanaian exhibit at the ROM, and there was they basically had like different like Ghanaian like clothing and like artifacts and stuff. And literally the little boy like looked at me and he's like, oh, like this is from where we're from? And I was like, yeah, but he was in shock because for him it's like he's so removed. I think this child was like 3rd or 4th generation. So like family has been here for a minute and become very like Canadianized. So for him he was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so that's the struggle when we don't keep our verbal histories going and our oral traditions. Like, and Nancy the Spider is something like every Black kid should know because it's across every African nation.
I remember watching that in elementary school.
The what?
And Nancy the Spider.
And Nancy the Spider.
The what?
Okay, so we're gonna have to educate.
You don't remember? Oh,
man, this is making me itchy. And Nancy the Spider is basically like African folklore, and it's a spider who gets himself in trouble. And basically, like, parents will tell you about Anansi the Spider to teach you lessons.
It's basically like a proverb, you could say.
It's a proverb, and there's different stories. So I remember my dad always used to tell me one about Anansi being greedy because I didn't like sharing my toys. And then, like, Anansi would get punished for being greedy. And then my dad would be like, do you want to be like Anansi? Or do you want to be like Tracy? And I was like, I want to be like me.
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
Like
wow, you're going. But they had it in elementary schools.
In some schools, and that's the thing. It always comes back to like teachers.
I guess
extra mile. So like the teacher who I made the comment to about Black people not speaking French, then locked me in detention for a week, but spoke to me about like French African history at like 12 years old. And I was
so, how do you feel now? Like you know about Côte d'Ivoire and many others.
As a kid, I felt very pro-Black. Like, I didn't know what, like, Black Panthers were, but I feel like when when I started learning, I remember telling my teacher, like, you don't teach me Black history. And
well, because you're Black and you know too much about Black history to...
Yeah, and so to put in perspective, like, from that experience, like, my dad got me, like, a Canadian Black history book. That's what I'm gonna bring to this. A Canadian Black history book. And I got super engaged and super excited about my Blackness. And I think that's what we need to do, is always be excited about our Blackness. Because we're taught that we shouldn't be excited. And I'm just gonna walk away from the mic for a second. I'll be back.
I'm also gonna bring up a point. Although we're bringing up Black awareness and all of that, I can't even lie. Being a child, as young as we were, I don't know, 9, 10, even younger, you can't even lie. We didn't know about all the things that we know now, which is great to know. Like before, it's just, okay, I'm Ghanaian, I only know about Ghanaians, or even as a Ghanaian, there's so many different Ghanaian cultures. Like, oh, because my parents are both Ashantis, it's like, oh, all I know is the Ashanti culture, but I never knew that there was Ewes. Sometimes I didn't know there was Fantis. Just, you know, there's so much more.
Even like the differences in culture, right? And like the fact that, so for my work, I do like culture specific work. So someone will like be attached to me because they're also Ghanaian. And then like meeting a family being like, I'm Ghanaian, and they're being like, okay. Because there's a different reality. Yeah. They look at my name and they're like, oh, we're not. But
your last name tribe. Is different. Yeah.
So
see, there's so much more. You see, we think we know everything, but we don't. There's actually so much more.
And we have to force ourselves to learn more, because it's really easy to just get distracted by the times right now. And if you hear the pages flopping, I'm sorry.
Where'd you get that?
My dad got me this book in elementary school. So right now, and we can put the link if I can find it online, it's this book called The Kids Book of Black Canadian History.
Whoa.
And I literally kept this book since like, so I think that experience with the teacher happened in like the 7th or 6th grade, and then my dad got me this book. Because, you know, Scholastic used to be a thing.
What? And so, they had the cool erasers and pencils.
And I wasn't, like, a cool kid. So, like, I literally just read books. So, yeah, I got this from Scholastic. And it's something that I always held on to. So, like, I just remember things. So, like, Marianne Shad was, like, the first, like, Black Canadian publisher. And I'm trying to find the other lady's name. But literally, it's a really good book. They talk about, like, Matthew DaCosta in here. And like different Canadian histories. Yeah.
That's very good condition from the elementaries.
Yeah, very super. It's like you never even touched the book.
No, if you go through the book, you can see where I've highlighted and underlined my Black Canadian heroes. Okay? Like Dionne Brand. She's an amazing author.
What's her book called?
Her most recent book? Let me find it. I need to find, like, I just read a book from her and I can't find the name, but amazing author.
Yeah, that book looks pretty.
I mean, I also have like a bookshelf because I am a loser.
It's pretty deep. You have a bookshelf?
Yeah, like just filled with all the books I've ever read.
I need one of those. Can you give me one?
Value Village. Look it up.
Ooh, Value Village.
Okay, so the book that I am talking about, What We All Long For by Dionne Brand, 2005. So it follows the story of like 20-something-year-olds in Toronto as like their lives like overlap and interweave, and that book was amazing. Like I finished it in one day, and that's a piece of like active Black history, right? Because Dionne Brand isn't some like random person. Like they are an active author. Like their last book came out in 2014. Like,
need to hop on that.
Yeah, so just to put that out there.
Read more books by Canadian Black authors,
or just Black authors,
or Black authors.
Like one of my most recent favorite books was Ghana Must Go by, I'm gonna mess up her name, but she's not from the same tribe as we are, but she's Ghanaian. And it's just a really good book about like being Ghanaian. Like it's just so interesting.
I love it.
Her name, how do you say her name? Sorry guys, we're like throwing out names here, but Ghana Must Go is by Taiye Selassie. So Taiye. Last name is Selassie, Selasi. So that's a really good book. And another good book that I would say, obviously Chinua Achebe, like all of that historic book, but Chimamanda Ngozi, if you love Beyonce, and you have, and she's a lady in the middle of Beyonce's song that says feminism is equality of the sexes. Purple Hibiscus.
Flawless.
Yes, the song Flawless. So she's a lady from Flawless. So Purple Hibiscus Why can't I speak? Because it's late at night.
Purple.
Hibiscus? Whatever flower that is.
Hibiscus?
Hibiscus, that's a really good book. Obviously, Americanah. People lost their shit over Americanah because it was awesome. But books like those. There's one more book that I want to tell you guys to read. Hold on.
Damn, she's coming with a lot of books.
She got all these books.
I feel like I don't read that much. Chasen's like throwing
Madame
out
has her
books
own library. Oh, I'm reading about the Atlantic slave trade.
My nerd side is coming up, but another really good African author, and like if you've ever done like an African history course or a sociology course in university, I feel like they make you read him, is Chinua Achebe. And I'm probably saying that wrong, so Nigerians, please don't come after me. But the book Things Fall Apart.
Friends,
like I'm holding it in my hand right now in hardcover, and it's like one of the most amazing books. So I'm gonna stop like going off about Black history. All I can say is like actively search for your history and actively engage in it, because there is a wealth of knowledge that isn't explored. Like there's so much to learn, and even as someone who spent like a good chunk of like my university career trying to figure out things, I still know nothing. Like I know nothing. And I just sat here and told y'all like 4 books to read and whatever, but I still know nothing.
And even though I got it tatted on my back, I still don't know quite a lot. So my challenge for myself is to be more in tune with my Blackness, starting with Ghana and branching out into many different other African countries.
Wait, can I just interrupt? Remember I was trying to remember the lady who was like our Canadian version of Rosa Parks? Her name is Viola Desmond. So
that's easy.
Yeah, because I was confusing her with another actress who's like current now. Viola Davis. I didn't want to say Viola Davis because she's still alive.
And mess it up. Yes.
Yeah. So Viola Desmond is basically a lady who got in trouble because she sat on the main floor of a theater when segregation was still a thing in Canada. Because yes, for those of you who are listening, segregation and slavery were real in Canada. Fight me.
Wow, when it was actually real in Canada? Oh, like, yeah, come on, like, for real people.
And so what Canadians love to dwell on, and this is me being like, this is a hot take. But Canadians love to dwell on the fact that slavery was abolished before Canada became a nation, so technically Canada never had slavery. That being said, upper and lower, what was it called back then? Upper and lower Canada. So before it became like
Canada as a whole,
Canada had slavery. Segregation is a thing. Go to Nova Scotia. You can see the ripple effects that still exist to this day, where there are generations of families who do not have access to the homes that they have been in for years because systematic oppression told them that they're not worthy of owning land. And I'm going to be quiet because I can get really like into it.
Okay, someone's getting real passionate, but we don't have that much time.
But let me just say, if you think Canadian Black history doesn't exist, do your Googles and it'll be very interesting to hear how like we got from carding and the historical, like you can go through the history of Canada and see that carding isn't some like new racism thing. I don't care that our police chief is Black. Like racism is real.
Carding is real. It happens on a day-to-day basis.
And let me stop talking
because I remember when Andrew Schultz was up here and he did that podcast. And
on Girlcast, and he tried to tell them that racism wasn't real. And
is
honestly,
that guy stupid?
Can I just say something? Like, I don't know if anyone who's listening to this podcast like listens to Galcast, but they handled that really well because I listen to Andrew Schultz weekly, but I can't imagine being in a room with him and he's telling me that the racism that my family's experienced here isn't real.
So you're telling me he just said it and like didn't feel a weight about it at all? Like,
and I think
didn't feel a hint of like.
I think the issue is he's not Canadian. So he doesn't understand the context. So people, this is where I say Google Canadian Black history.
Not just Google. Actually pick up a book and read it. You know, I mean, Google does so much, but I feel like you should also.
But I think what happens is, and it goes back to us being eclipsed by the States, our racism in comparison to the racism that's in the States we look so good, right? Because we don't have a prime minister who's tweeting nonsense.
We don't have Justin Trudeau saying, you know, Africa is a shithole.
But that doesn't mean that systematic
I'm pretty sure.
Exist.
And plus we recognize
those people have their racist comments deep down inside of them.
But it's not even that. It's like they have it deep down inside them, but what we always like to look at is very apparent forms of racism, right? Like
that's
that
true.
person called me the N-word, they're racist. But we don't look at the fact that it's like
It happens in different types of ways.
And so like if you want to just like take it back, like the fact that like what African nations were allowed to immigrate here and under what conditions were they allowed to immigrate here. You talk to a lot of people who came, a lot of people's parents who came here from Jamaica. How did they come here from Jamaica? Under the caregiver program. So you left your family back home to come work for a white family here, and that's how you were able to bring your country. What does that cause? Disarray. It caused a disconnection from your child. Your child now comes here, doesn't know who you are, and now we're wondering why kids are acting out in school. Obvious correlation here. And yes, that's a social worker and me coming out, but trauma histories are real. Transgenerational trauma is real. Fight me on it. Okay, I'm done.
Mike Tyson.
I'm sorry, I get really, like, when we talk about things, like, sometimes I get really hyped up, but, like, looking at the fact, like, how people are brought in here, for what purpose they were brought in here for, I realize, like, the episode's going a bit long, but we're talking about Black history, but also, if you're listening, if you're still listening, thank you. Yes. But I would also say, it's not, like, let's look at, like, all people of color, period. Racialized people. Let's look at our history in this nation. Like, you don't have to go deep to find out about like, the Chinese head tax. Indigenous, we're sitting on stolen land as we speak. I live on stolen land. Like, I need
we
to
all
say
do
that. And for those of you who are like, no, we don't. Yes, you do.
The Canadian government recognized that, what's the schools?
The residential schools.
Residential schools that, like, I swear Justin Trudeau brought that up last year and he said, at the United Nations.
Harper even was the one who like, first apologized and look at him.
United Nations, he made a speech about I can't be an example to these other countries when we have this history with Aboriginal people.
And it's still going on. Something? Yeah.
The last residential school that we know of closed in 1996. In 1996, not to age myself, I was in school.
We were all in school.
We were all in school.
Not high school either.
Not high school.
2 years old.
Chill, you can age yourself, I won't. The other thing I will say, people love, this is the one thing people don't talk about a lot. People love to talk about South African apartheid, right? People are like, oh my god, apartheid was so horrible, Nelson Mandela, da-da-da. You know where they got the idea from apartheid from? Canada. They got from the residential school system. So I feel like the podcast got really deep real quick, so I do apologize.
Real quick. Like 0 to 100, like real quick. Like let's go.
I have a fake sociology degree, so it comes out sometimes. But let's
my goodness.
So let's move into like a positive to end off the podcast. And
U.N.I.T.Y.
And we can continue these conversations later. But what is your favorite thing to do during Black History Month? Or your favorite Black History Month memory?
Black History Month memory,
or favorite thing to do during Black History Month to celebrate.
I mean, Black History Month is forget all of that. It's Black History Year. It's Black History every single day. Mm-hmm. Like, look at me up and down all you want. If I wear my African clothes after I come from church in the store, yes, stare all you want. But favorite memory for me is representing Ghana, Africa, the Caribbean, Jamaica. You know, the whole. I'm not gonna mention every country, but like
there's a lot of them.
There's too many, but in general, representing Ghana and Jamaica for Black History Month in front of a whole group of people, like in front of school, like
I remember those.
To break out and dance. I mean, some of them looked at it like, oh, you're gyrating and this and that, but like culture. This is culture. Like, I'm sorry, my butt was shaking. I didn't even see it moving. I'm sorry.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
For those of y'all who want to be like Carabanas, over-sexualized, ratate, just Black people in the street, that's history. Fight me. Yes, it's been bought out by the white people, and that's a whole nother conversation. But Caravana has historical relevance in this city, and if you don't know about it, get to know about it. Okay, bye.
Read about it.
So yeah, I just wanted to say that. My favorite Black History Month memory for me personally is when I was in grade 9 and we had like no Black teachers. Like we had one Black child and youth worker, and she saw me hanging out and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." I was just sitting there eating my lunch. She's like, "Come."
Your patty?
No, I was eating jollof rice actually. Hey. And then she didn't drag me, but she like pulled me to a room with all the other Black kids. And I had come from a school that was like primarily like white Italian and Filipino.
Snobby kids.
So they weren't even snobby. They were great kids. I just didn't have many Black friends.
Snobby kids.
Stop calling them that. They were nice kids. Like I'm still friends with them. I don't want them to get offended. But most of my friends,
I'm sorry,
most of my Black friends were considered family. So she brought me to a room with all the other Black kids and like taught us a Black dance and then we went, like, an African dance, pardon me, and then we went on stage to perform it. And it was just really cool because it was the first time that I had, like, hung out with, like, a lot of other Black kids who weren't family and who weren't Ghanaian. So, like, I met, like, someone from Grenada, and I even know what Grenada was at the time. Like,
what's a Grenada, Lucia, you were saying? Mm-hmm.
Like, Jamaica, and, like, there's a Nigerian girl, and I went to a high school, for those of you who know me, like, there's no Black kids at the high schools, even to
it's like 0.1%.
So the fact that, like, she was able to bring us all together to experience that was amazing. So, like,
U.N.I.T.Y.
every time I think of Black History Month, I think of that experience. So shout out to you. I don't know if I can call her out, but, like, you were an amazing child and youth worker. Wherever you are, I hope you're still rocking the blonde braids. Those of you who know who I'm talking about will know who I'm talking about.
Blonde braids? Yeah, she stands out for sure.
Yeah, so that's my favorite Black History Month, like, memory.
So what's your music, guys?
Anyone for you?
You don't have a Black History Month memory?
Moments? I have bad memories. Not bad memories, like, I'm horrible at remembering stuff.
Oh, you have bad memory. Okay,
not
bad memories.
There was a moment, though, in high school where we did call the school racist because they did shout out Chinese New Year versus Black History Month. And we didn't have our Black History Month ceremony till March the 6th. I remember this in high school. But I'm going to allow it because March the 6th is Ghana independence. So I allowed it, presents. But the school still
I'm not allowing it. F you, Joes.
I didn't go to that school. Can I just say one more thing?
What?
My other favorite Black History Month memory, I think it was in grade 11 or 12. This is when Facebook was hot. I took pictures every single day and called it my month, and then told all my non-Black friends to give me gifts every single day for Black History Month. So I don't have Facebook anymore, but if you find my old Facebook profile, there's a album called This Is My Month, and every day
kill me.
It's me in different pictures celebrating Black History Month. Like,
so the first one is what? One of you eating jollof rice?
The first one is me harassing my other Nigerian friend and, like, going skating with her, and she's like, what does this have to do with Black History Month? And I was like, it's celebration.
You're ridiculous. But anywho,
song
for the podcast. I have lots.
Okay, you want it? I have one.
I have lots.
I have one. Can I go first with my
one?
Okay,
you can go.
So my song of the month, and it ties into our first topic, and our second topic is All of the Stars. Kendrick Lamar and SZA. I just love that song, and when it closed out the movie,
it was epic. Blessed. I don't care that.
And it's just, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't listened to the whole soundtrack because someone said, like, wait till you see the movie, then listen to the soundtrack.
I guess it makes more sense.
But that's the one song that I just keep on listening to over and over and over, and it's like,
and the video, woo.
And I love SZA, right? I think I've said this on this podcast. Like, I love SZA. Like, I want to be her. So that's my song.
Easy now.
That's my song of the week.
Okay, so I'm gonna take it back, way back, all the way back to Uncle Bob himself.
I went to visit Bob Marley's house when I was in Jamaica. I smoked one for him. Rest in power.
Bob Marley is Buffalo Soldier.
Buffalo Soldier.
Stolen from Africa.
Oh, did you just ruin the lyric? Shame on you. Queen Latifah's U.N.I.T.Y. I've been singing the whole podcast.
U.N.I.T.Y. Did anyone watch the All-Star game when she came out? That's another topic for another time, but go Queen.
I don't know if is it by Flavor Flav? Fight the Power.
Public
Enemy. Yes, I was gonna say.
Don't credit Flavor Flav alone.
Okay, no. Yes, it was a group, but yes,
he's done a lot. But
Flavor Flav. Anyways,
Flavor Flavs.
Those my tones.
Okay, shh. Okay, so, like, I realize the podcast is going, like, a bit
way over time. So, we're gonna end it off right there.
And so we'd like to thank you again for listening to Her Side Radio. Again, you can follow us on social media. That's your Twitters, your Instagram. Hit us up via Gmail at hersideradio@gmail.com. Don't forget to play this podcast no matter where you go, whether it's in the gym, in your boyfriend's car, or in your
sugar daddy's
house. Or in your side things, bedroom, and you're getting it done. Okay, guys, thank you. Bye.
Wakanda
forever.
U.N.I.T.Y.
Watch Black Panther out in theaters now.
Don't forget to embrace your blackness.
Fight the power. We got to fight the power that be.